Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the A-Side. I'm your host, former President George W. Bush, and today I am going to be reviewing an album that's very special to me, and it's loomed over music for a few years now, in my opinion, because it came out and absolutely blew me away. And to be honest, I haven't been feeling very motivated lately to be making content. I really just haven't felt like getting out of bed, you know? But yesterday, I listened to this album for the first time in a while and remembered music is really good, and I want to talk about it. Um, and this album has, like I said, its shadow has been looming over music for me for a couple of years now, and this is the 2018 release by American rock band The Story So Far, the album Proper Dose. Now, I heard this album in 2018, and you have to understand what 2018 is for me. And that is the year where I got into music late elementary school, early middle school, and kind of spent time catching up on different scenes and bands and stuff. Mostly, from Panic at the Disco, I found bands like MCR and Fall Out Boy and all that stuff. But 2018 is the year where I started paying attention to the here and now, listening to all the new music releasing, and it was a magical year. So many amazing albums. Arctic Monkeys, Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, 21 Pilots, Trench, Boston Manor, Welcome to the Neighborhood, Kids See Ghosts. You all know how much I love Kids See Ghosts. And this album, Proper Dose, was my album of the year. And it still tops every single one of those albums I just named, which are all albums I absolutely adore. But that's how amazing this album is, and that's how much it means to me. It's been there through thick and thin, and it's all I've listened to today and yesterday. It's been in my mind so much, and I just really wanted to make a review of it. If you don't like the story so far, you're probably not going to like this review because I think this album is perfect. And I'm just going to say that straight up that this album is perfect. It's one of my favorite albums of the decade, one of my favorites of all time, probably a top 5 within the 2010s decade, easily. Like I said, it was my 2018 album of the year, and it just means everything to me. Now, the story so far kind of has a reputation for being kind of an incel band. And, maybe that's true. A lot of their early stuff, since their first album, Under Soil and Dirt, those first 3 albums, are all very angry, and very angry at Parker Cannon's ex, this girl that hurt him and ruined him, painted him black when he used to be golden, if you will. Um, and these first 3 albums focus on just the anger he feels toward this girl. And, oh my god. And Proper Dose is an album about moving on and moving forward. He's over this girl and the angry feelings. And not only is Parker moving on from the feelings of this girl, but also moving on from his addiction with opiates and his drug addiction and drug problems. And both of those themes together make for a pretty personal album from the story so far, and also an album unlike anything else they've ever made for that fact, because so much of their stuff was so angry and bitter. To now see something more mature and introspective and retrospective from Parker and from this band is really great, and it comes off as a breath of fresh air, and I absolutely adore it. I love a lot of the themes of, you know, finally finding peace within yourself and just moving forward from this situation, moving forward from this person that hurt you, moving forward from the vices in your life, and becoming better as a person for it. And that is throughout the entirety of this album. And musically, this album is quite a step in a new direction as well for the story so far. Their older albums are very pop punky, very loud guitars, and super tight production wise. Everything is loud and in your face, and there's not a lot of room to breathe. Whereas with Proper Dose, things become a lot softer, a lot more stripped back, and very spacey. Almost dreamlike in some places. Not quite as dreamlike as a band like My Bloody Valentine or Beach House, but the dream influence is there. You can really hear that on the song Line, which is an amazing song. You've got these kind of spacey, nice guitars that start, and a blissful bass groove kicks in. And it's amazing on the ears. And then Parker's vocals come in, um, very spaced out, soaked in reverb, and it's an absolute beautiful moment. And it's the dreamiest it gets on this album. but it's amazing. If you want to get into dream music, I actually recommend starting with this album and then kind of using it as a gateway drug. Start with this and then listen to like Bloom by Beach House and then maybe some Tame Impala and eventually work your way up to like My Bloody Valentine and Slow Dive and even maybe some post-industrial stuff like Have a Nice Life. Um, but that's besides the point. And that kind of dreamier sound is apparent throughout a majority of the album, especially on the ballads, which are my absolute favorite parts of this album. Take Me As You Please kicks in with these amazing sounding acoustic guitars, and I absolutely love this song. It's just absolutely beautiful. The acoustic guitars kick in, and Parker starts crooning. Um, with the prettiest he's ever sounded, because typically Parker's vocals are very aggressive and very angry. So to hear him kind of laid back and stripped back and just singing from the heart is really something nice. And it's refreshing to hear him not quite so angry. Vocals are done. The ending of the song is a beautiful instrumental passage where just everything hits a beautiful crescendo, and all the instruments, the bass, the drums, the acoustic guitars, the keys, are just all in perfect harmony. And everything is firing on all cylinders, and it's an absolute beautiful moment. And this is one of my favorite songs on the album. Like I said, the ballads on this album are really what make this special. Um, Lyrically, it's about moving on from Parker's ex, this person he's been so angry and so bitterly obsessed with for years now. He's finally finding peace and moving on and saying to this person, take me as I am. I can't change. I can't be a different person. I am Parker Cannon. And you know what? I'm always going to be Parker Cannon, so take me as you please. And he talks about how this person emotionally drained him. Don't leave my light on, you'll burn out the bulb, and then I'll have to buy another. It's not like we can't talk to each other. Don't write a sad song, you'll burn out your love, and then you'll have to find another. And then he says, I'm going to shine on for my little brother, saying this might be, bringing me down and hurting me, but, I have family and many other people in my life counting on me other than you. I can make it. I don't need you. And it's nice to kind of have those themes of getting up and leaving, and when you're done with something and just getting over it and finding peace within yourself and finding that you're good enough for yourself, maybe not for other people, but you are good enough. And that's something that a lot of people forget. Sometimes in our modern era, we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people, whereas Parker just finds the peace with himself. He's like, you know what, I can't compare myself to every other person because of you. um, I'm going to be who I am. Take me as you please. But if you don't want me, if you don't like who I am, I'm leaving. Um, and I think that's beautiful. And I think the music is beautiful to go with it as well. One of the best songs on the album. Another absolute amazing ballad on this album is Upside Down, which might just be my favorite song on the album. This song is also about kind of moving on from that person that hurt you when you're sadness and depression. It's about when Parker was going through this and was depressed and hooked on drugs and addicted to his own sadness, how he didn't have any motivation to make music or do any of the things he loved. He would just want to lay in bed, wasting his life because he's sad, as the opening lyrics say, 24, staring in your face like it's the front of the door. Um, I cannot tell the ceiling from the floor. Um, Let me go, cut the leash before I lose us in a bad undertow. How to channel how you made me feel to play every show. Make my snide suggestions about the things I don't know. I will not catch a feeling. I'll just float. Um, Great lyricism. I think the lyricism on this album is absolutely amazing, and I think he really describes very well, especially in that opening door. 24, staring at your face like it's the front of the door. Um, I don't want this as a job. Help me find something more. Kind of does a really good way of describing how you feel when you are depressed, how you don't want to do anything, you lose all your motivation. If it's, you're depressed over a person, you're just going to spend all your time sitting there thinking about your person, being sad in your room, and it becomes like a job because it consumes all of your time of you just being sad. And that's what Parker's trying to throw out there, and I think he explains it brilliantly. But it's all love now. That's the chorus, and that's the theme of the song, is that eventually you do have to find that peace and move on. And, from there on out, learn to be the bigger person, learn to be mature, learn to love life, love your enemies. You know what I mean? And once again, I think it's just a very beautiful message. And the song itself is absolutely beautiful, with some great kind of spacey sounding guitars, very dreamlike once again, which is very interesting for the pop punk sound, because that's not something you really often hear. A lot of modern pop punk is very fast and very angry and very aggressive. Take like the early Story So Far albums, or the opening track off of Neck Deep's Life Not's Out to Get You, or Knuckle Puck's The Weight That You Buried EP, or even on some of the more emo sides of things like Title Fight, is all very angry and very aggressive, where it's nice to kind of hear this band chill out and mature and make some dreamier music to kind of listen to and think about instead of just being angry. Which, being angry is cool. I love the Story So Far. I don't think they have a bad album yet, but this album is on a different level artistically. It is an artistic piece of work, not just a silly pop punk album, as a lot of people would view it to be. And I think this album is honestly a modern classic that a lot of people, especially snobbier music fans, will not pay attention to because it is a dumb pop punk album. And I love pop punk. It's like my second favorite genre behind emo, and I adore this album. It's so good, and I do think it's a classic. Getting on with the track listing. This song is beautiful though. Some great keys, some cool like little organ effects as well. Absolutely beautiful. Parker's singing is once again gives a beautiful emotional performance with some amazing melodies. 24 staring at your face like it's the front of the door. I think about it quite a bit, honestly. I think about this album a lot because it's just, like I said, loomed over me since 2018. And the messages for this album, I'm not a drug addict, but the other messages really do tend to resonate with me. And you can even listen to it and pull something out of it if you don't have that half of the drug addict in you, or if you have the half of being sad over a person or depressed over a person, that can also be part of it. But as a whole, the album is about moving on and finding peace and growing up, and we'll get to that. Now, I'm going to go through the track listing. I kind of skipped around a bit. It opens with Proper Dose, which kind of talks about all the stuff that happens in Parker's life and the stuff he went through. And it pretty much just goes over all the things he's moving on from, talking about his drug problem, talking about the girl that broke his heart and was terrible to him, that he's been angry at, but also shows that he is kind of growing up. I defy a proper dose because I'm alone and I don't care. And though that grass is greener, it just don't even compare. Pretty much what he's saying is, you know what? I am alone. This person did hurt me, but I'm okay. I don't care. I'm gonna push on through. And then that grass is greener. It just don't even compare at all. Is him saying maybe it looks better with this person. Maybe the past looks better. The grass is always greener on the other side, but it doesn't compare to where I am now. And I gotta live my life. And I think this is lyrically one of the best songs on the album, especially the chorus. All this time I want to give you back. I feel opaque and absentee. Am I just going through the motions, or is this how I'll be? Barely focused anymore. The haze is all that I can see. Red bottle, white cap. Pretty much talking about how all he was doing was being sad and doing drugs, and how he couldn't get past that, and he was wasting his life. But he finally figures out that it's time to move on and time to move forward. Um, Growing into a man from a child is one of the lyrics on here. Um, and I think it's a great opener. I think, like I said, uh, lyrically, Parker is just throwing daggers. Everything is so sharp, and he's on his A game on this song. Um, Absolutely amazing. And it also showcases immediately the kind of more spacier, room to breathe kind of sound and stripped back sound this album was going for, starting off with some acoustic guitars and then the heavier guitars kicking in. And once again, it just feels so much spacier and there's so much room to breathe and think and to kind of digest everything you're hearing and think about what's going on in the music. Yeah. Next song, Keep This Up, is about him once again looking back on this relationship and how this girl that was terrible to him is with somebody new. And, he's looking back about how angry he was at it, but is now realizing that spending time being depressed over it doesn't mean anything. And he knows in the end he was too good for her anyway. The opening, Chase Me, Fill in the Gap Now, Gold in My Iris. I miss how the waves sound. I haven't talked to my brother in over a year now. I hope that he's still proud. This little second section, these last 4 lines, once again do a really good job of describing what happens when you are depressed. You just isolate yourself. You don't go outside. You stay in your room. And he says that he needs to move on because he misses how the waves sound. He misses living his life. He hasn't talked to his brother. He hopes his brother is still proud of what he's done and who he is as a person, um, because he hasn't seen him in so long, because he just wanted to be by himself in his own cocoon of self-pity and sadness. But he realizes that he is too good for this person, and that once again it's time to mature and move on and grow up. And he looks back and he's like, what's with these things I did to try and disconnect you two? Was it my pessimistic views, or is it all the drugs I was using? And now he kind of realizes that this person isn't going to treat this new guy better either. Um, Saying, I want to see why you love her, why you're good for each other, but I just don't know how. Pretty much seeing that, this person sucks and isn't worth being sad over, and is better just to move on. And once again, it's all backed by this great kind of stripped back pop punk sound. This is a little closer to their earlier stuff, but it is a little more acoustic sounding and a lot more stripped back and dreamy. And it's absolutely great sound wise. I'm really into it. Um, and on the bridge, he once again calls this girl out. If you keep this up, you'll die here all alone, yet you still fill your cup. Pretty much saying, yeah, you're a bad person, and you hurt me, and you're going to hurt someone else. But you know what? Not my problem now. And that's cool. And I'm very proud of Parker for getting through his sadness and his anger and mellowing out, and I'm very proud of him for getting over his drug problem. And I think sometimes when you have these events in your life and these big revelations, it can lead to some of your best art. And I think this is some of the best art I've ever heard. It is one of my favorite albums of all time, as I've said many times. I'm so stoked on this album, honestly. The third track out of it really focuses on Parker's drug problem, um, leaning on a bad knee, pretty much meaning to get through his problems and his sadness. He started taking these opiates and drugs and then got addicted. Um, and it just made everything worse, all of his depression. His appropriate opiate has him out of it, is the lyrics. And this is the most story so far-ish song on the album. It sounds a lot like something maybe from the self-titled album. Still a lot more mature and spacey and grown-up sounding than a lot of the stuff on there. It's a lot more stripped back, sure, but it's very close to those early songs. And the hook on this album is absolutely insane. My appropriate opiate has me out of it, out of it. It's so catchy. I love the hook on this song, and it makes me want to come back for more and more. It's one of those hooks that's just almost so perfect that you just don't want to stop listening to it, and it makes the song so infectious, and you want to listen to it all the time. At least I know I do. Um, and yeah, it really kicks ass, that song. And all of the themes and stuff and the sounds together just work so well, and they balance each other to the point where it never feels preachy, either. When some people get over their drug problems, it tends to feel a little preachy, and a little like you're up your own ass, whereas Parker is doing it so emotionally and is connecting it with so many other issues in his life that it never feels overboard, it never feels too much, and it never feels preachy. And the man did a really great job on this song, lyrically and musically and everything about it. I just love. Let It Go, once again, another amazing song. That kind of spacey, acoustic-y pop punk sound, once again, that I'm just a sucker for. And I'll bring that up multiple times in every track. This acoustic, kind of pop punky dream sound is something so unique within the scene. I feel like this album redefined pop punk. Very similarly, I think the newest Neck Deep album also kind of redefined and changed what pop punk could be, but I think they did it in both completely different ways. Whereas Neck Deep kind of made pop punk more kind of warm and blissful, the story so far made it dreamy and not quite psychedelic, but pretty transcendent, and kind of a little more heady and laid back and stripped down. Whereas Neck Deep, on All Distortions Are Intentional, kind of pushed the production further and made it bigger. The story so far stripped it back, and I think it works really well for this band. I think they do a really good job with what they're doing here. And thematically, Parker's once again, the song's called Let It Go. He's saying how at this point he doesn't feel anything for this really girl anymore. He's not angry. He's not upset. He doesn't lust for her. He's not bitter. Um, and that he has let it go and has moved on, that she needs to let everything go that happened between them as well. He's saying, I'm miles ahead of you, and I won't let it break me down. I won't let this sadness hurt me anymore. And that's what Parker is saying. Um, and it just once again is a great themes. I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but I love the themes of just moving on and maturing as a person and being the better person and bettering yourself in every way possible after, a bad breakup or a bad event. And it's something that can apply to much more than drug addiction and a breakup. Pretty much anything you go through, whether it's being rejected from a job or being fired or not getting the part you want in a show or being cut from a team, you move on and better yourself as a person. And I think it's a lesson we can all learn from the story so far. Yeah. Now, this song, If I Fall, the next track on the album, is once again a little more aggressive, closer to the story so far's older stuff, vocally, but kind of really encapsulates that more acoustic pop punk sound that this album has kind of um, innovated. So vocally and lyrically, Parker's pretty angry, but lyrically he's matured and moved on. It starts off with the sound of a lighter, and then the kind of more spacier, roomier guitars kick in. I don't know how to really describe it. What I'm trying to say is there's so much breathing room in the compositions of this album where everything feels spaced out enough that you can take it all in and think about it. And it's a very light album to listen to. It just is very relaxing and very chill. I'm very into it if you can't tell. But yeah, and pretty much what this song is about is that he's moving on from this person and he doesn't need them anymore. And he realizes that's a good thing because in his time of need and his time of hurt, when he is struggling with these drug problems, that this person isn't going to be there for him. Despite him always being there for them, they're not going to be there if he falls. And he asks, will you be there if I fall? Um, I give me space, make me pace, let me whine, saving face at the cost of what I owe, um, talking about these problems he has. But um, what do I care? What do you know? Pretty much, you're not going to help me at all, and I don't expect you to, and you wouldn't help even if you tried. He's pretty much saying that I'm better off without needing to rely on you because I know you won't be there when I'm hurt. And this can be taken either toward this person, his ex, or the drugs he uses, or both. It opens up with clear your head, so self-centered, yet you're very well read. That's a pretty great opening line. Very, very aggressive, and he's calling them out immediately um, about how self-centered they are and how much they don't care about him and what would happen when he needs help. And that's great. I think that's a really good opening line to set the stage for the rest of the song and the themes you hear on the rest of the song. Um, and I think it is both written about his reliance on drugs and his other people. Will you be there if I fall? So this ex-girlfriend won't be there. And at the same time, the drugs that he's using to try and get through these problems, the opiates that he's using, won't be there either. And I think it's neat how he's written it where it's dual sides, both sides of the coin. And it's about two different things at once, but still about the same thing. And it's pretty genius. This band does not get enough recognition outside of the pop punk scene for just being amazing, especially this album. Need to Know, once again, is about Parker's experiences at rehab and how going through rehab and getting rid of the drugs out of his life, he's kind of grown up and matured as a person. All you need to know is that while I was away, I've had time to think about it, and I know I'm better off without it. He's learned that he's better off without taking drugs and without being constantly angry over her. And the fact that he's just in a better place now. And that's pretty much what it's about, is the person he became after he came out of rehab. And this song really kind of sums up the entire album as a whole, is that he has moved forward and that he has grown up and that he has learned to be a better person and has really progressed in his life. And once again, That's absolutely great. The drums on this song are excellent. I haven't talked too much about the instrumentation itself because nothing really is too different. Like I said, it's very acoustic, very spacey. The guitar work is great. I mentioned the bass line on Line being absolutely amazing. And the bass work is great. The guitar work is great. Parker sounds great. Like I said, throughout the majority of the album, he's really singing clearly and is just crooning his heart out. And he sounds great. I'm gonna be honest. Um, and I really wish we could have heard more of that throughout all these years. Only a couple exceptions have we heard a more softer, kind of introspective sounding, mature Parker Cannon. Usually we hear him yelling and being mad, which I love on albums like Under Soil and Dirt with him yelling and being mad, but I do much prefer his more mature crooning that we get on this album, because Proper Dose is my favorite Story So Far. As I've said, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. Um, and the drums on Need to Know are just pretty awesome. They really propel the song forward. Some great punk drumming right there. It's what punk drumming is all about. You hear people like Marky Ramone and Trey Cool, and this is on the same level as those guys. The drums are amazing. Then there's the penultimate track on the album, Growing on You. It's another slower ballad, kind of acoustic and dreamy, and I absolutely adore it. On this song, Parker Cannon sings in falsetto, which is something to my knowledge he has never done before this time, and it sounds flawless. His falsetto is so good. As I was saying, Parker Cannon's falsetto sounds amazing, and it's something we had never heard before, but it just works great. And with the softer, more acoustic-y, ballady sound this song, dreamy, acoustic-y sound this song is going for, it works wonders with his falsetto. And the song itself is incredibly sweet. It's probably the sweetest song that the Story So Far has ever written. Pretty much, it's his last song he's writing to this girl. Now, like I mentioned, the Story So Far has every single one of their songs and every album has been pretty much written about Parker Cannon's anger at his ex-girlfriend who did some bad shit to him. And this is the sweetest song they've ever written, and it's the last song written to this girl. And it's just Parker pouring out his feelings, talking about how much he loved her, and how at the time he would have stood by her with no shame. And it's beautiful, and it's, you know, his last time getting this all out before he feels better. And it's such a sweet song and a sweet moment, and I love the hook. I am a blade in a lawn that's new, covered in dew, waiting for you. I feel no shame. I'm tried and true, and I'm lonely like you. I'm growing on you. And it's just great lyricism overall, and just an overall very sweet and beautiful song. And it really works well as a penultimate track because, like I said, it's the last time he pours out all his feelings so then he can feel better, which leads into the last track on the album, Light Year, which is pretty much Parker looking back at his past and looking at himself now. How did I get here? It feels like a light year. Um, Pretty much the fact that he has come so far and matured so much as a person, and it feels like it's been such a long time, but he's finally found peace with himself, and he's finally happy. He got where he wants to be, and he's just in a better place now. And the song itself is really great as well. Um, Especially the hook. How did I get here? Feels like a light year. I should have no fear, but my hands are slick. And their harmonies. So as that's going on, there's How Did I Get Here? Feels like a light year. And those two pieces on top of each other just sound really great. And now as a Beach Boys fan, I really love a good harmony. And I think it works really great on the chorus. And like I said, the guitar and stuff is all perfect. And this song is very uplifting. It's probably the most uplifting song on the album. And it's a perfect way to close it. And kind of wrap everything in the package and put a nice little bow on top to just wrap everything up. Parker Cannon, like I said, is talking about how he's grown so much and he's to where he needs to be, but he's also anxiously and excitedly looking forward to the future. Um, like I said, this album is amazing. I love the kind of new take on pop punk that the Story So Far innovates on this. The more acoustic, laid back, dreamy sound that this goes for. There's so much breathing room, and it's just a rather laid back album to listen to, and really Lyrically is great. Parker Cannon writes some of the best lyrics he's ever had, especially on the opening track, Proper Dose, and Out of It, and Take Me As You Please, and Light Year. Really just at the top of his game lyrically, and the group is at the top of their game musically as well. And they're so proficient with all their instruments, and they make everything sound so good. And this new direction they go in on this album, it's so mature, and it's just something so unique. And I feel like if the story so far gets remembered, it'll be probably for Under Soil and Dirt, but also this album. I think one day maybe music fans will come around and realize that they missed something great. Um, this album, Shadow, has loomed large over modern music for me. It was one of my favorite albums of 2018. It was my favorite album of 2018. And like I said, 2018 was a big year for me. It's one of my favorite years in music. Kids See Ghost is my favorite hip hop album of all time. And that's only a number two compared to Proper Dose. I've heard some amazing albums in 2019 and 2020. Igor, um, A Thousand Gex, uh, Ugly is the New Beautiful, All Distortions Are Intentional, um, so much good stuff, and none of it has even come close to being as good as this album. It's one of the best albums I've ever heard, honestly. Like I said, 2019, 2020 hasn't had an album better than the Proper Dose by the story so far. So of course, I'm going to give this album a 10. If I could give it a higher score, I would. It's in the top 5 of the decade for me. And one of my favorites of all time. So I've been your host, Riley. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a light year.